Wouldn't that be magical? That's kind of like what we're designed to do, but you know, life gets in the way and we get off track, right? All right, so a little bit about today's agenda. I'll tell you a little bit about me. Some of you already know a little bit about me. Some of you know a lot about me. Some of you know almost everything about me. So that's kind of cool. We've got the range of people here. We'll talk about some modern stressors, how stress is different today than it was a long time ago when we were actually designed. We'll talk a little bit about our nervous system, how stress and fat loss are kind of integrated together. The 7 tools that we will talk about today that help calm your nervous system. And after we're finished, I will send you a follow-up gift to help keep you on track with these 7 things. Okay, so a little bit about me for those of you that don't know me. So this whole journey that I'm on started in 2011 when my life sort of crashed around me, and the picture of me in a brown shirt was me at my heaviest. Let's just say that. Um, I saw myself in that picture and a couple other pictures, and as well as life events, and I was like, I don't even recognize who that person was or is. And I went searching for a change and searching for something that would work for me. And what I found was ancestral health and looking at ancestral health in the respect of, how are we supposed to do these things? How are we, if you believe in evolution, we've been around for maybe a couple 100,000 years, maybe a million years. How are we designed to cope with all these things? How are we designed to eat? How are we designed to um, exercise? How are we designed to sleep? All of these things from an ancestral point of view. Once I figured that all out, and I read a book that made perfect sense because it was super science oriented, and I just took all those practices and went for it. And in 3 months, I lost 30 pounds. And then I began to search for something to prove to myself that I was still a vibrant human being. And I found a Spartan race, and I did my first Spartan race in 2012. This is not from that particular event, but you can almost see on my face on the left that I don't look too happy in that brown shirt, but on the right, I'm way happier. And I actually, in 2019, did a 13-mile Spartan race fasted, just for fun and giggles. And that was probably, I came off the course and I was the happiest, one of the happiest I've ever been finishing a race. So after I came off the mountain that one day, I was like, I need to share this with everybody, share my story with people, help them get to a better place in their health and wellness. So I became a trainer, became a Spartan coach. 4 years after that, I became a health and wellness coach. And in 2021, I think I became a national board certified health and wellness coach. Just a couple other things about me. There's my son on the bottom left and my other son in the middle right. Those are, 2 pictures of them happy. So that's all we can want for our kids is that they're happy. As we go through this today, I want you to think about how you can get more in touch with yourself. So how do I do that? Bird watching is one of my things. And you can see in the upper left-hand corner, I am hanging on this great blue heron's leg, which was kind of fun. On the bottom left, I love the Harry Potter stories. I'm a Ravenclaw. I kind of identify with that. That's kind of, something fun that I do and that I have in the back of my mind all the time, how I am sort of Ravenclaw with characteristics and stuff. And the other thing that I do, and I had to put Joan on the bottom right here, I help people with Parkinson's with their movement. And I've been working with Joan for since 2017 to help her with her movement so she can live and thrive in her environment as long as she can independently. So that's my story and sticking with it. I don't have any choice, right? All right. So fat loss obviously feels harder when you get 40 and beyond because there's a lot more stress. There's a lot more, you feel fatigue. There's a lot of people that I talk to that are just stressed all the time. Their sleep is rotten. And we also have this constant stimulation all the time. And I'll get more into that here. So think about, I talked about evolution a little bit. Think about 500 years ago, and I want you to think about each one of these things today compared to what they were like 500 years ago. Let's go 500 years. Okay. So we have had all this time with evolution of a certain way, and now we have these work pressures. And think about how they were different 500 years ago. We have news cycles now. We have news at our fingertips. Think about how news was transmitted to people 500 years ago. Screens, obviously didn't have screens 500 years ago. Sleep. Our sleep cycles are all weird because of our jobs or whatever, who we work with. Back then, you pretty much had to go to bed when the sun went down, and you pretty much got up when the sun came up, with, a few exceptions. Today, another modern stress is that we lack nature. A lot of times we're in these boxes all the time, 24/7, and we don't get out. 500 years ago, we were outside all the time. Relationships are different. Now we got two-dimensional relationships like we all have right here. Back then, there was only three-dimensional relationships. You had to touch people, interact with people, and be with people all the time. Travel is different now. Now we can get up and be in a different continent in no time at all. Back then, horse and buggy took a long time to, go from place to place. So we have all these extra stressors on ourselves. Even the simple thing of driving in a car is a stressful event because our brain is designed to move and function and process things only as fast as we can run. So anytime we go faster than we can run, then our brain needs to process all this information that's flying past us. So generally, we don't drive at 7 miles an hour. That's about as fast as I can run. So, that's a lot more information that gets pummeled into our brain day in and day out every time we hop in the car. So that's a lot of stress that our brain has to deal with that we are not necessarily wired to handle all that stress. So our nervous system has two primary modes, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic, fight or flight. Parasympathetic, rest and repair, or rest and digest. You might have heard that. So let's dig a little bit deeper into those. Whoop. All right, I'm not going to go over this whole thing. This is a diagram from the Queensland's government in Australia. But when we're more in a parasympathetic or sympathetic mode, fight or flight, our irises dilate. All right, so we can get more information in because we need to act fast. All right, our heart rate beats faster because we need to be able to go wherever we need to go as fast as we can. I was in a sympathetic state about a week and a half ago. I was riding my bike down the road. These two pit bulls came after me, and I was in total fight or flight mode because I needed to get away because I definitely couldn't take down two pit bulls, maybe a half a pit bull, but definitely not two. I did live to tell the tale, no injuries, but pupils dilated, no saliva, fast heartbeat just to be able to survive that situation. So that's sympathetic, fight or flight. Parasympathetic is our rest and relax mode, rest and digest. So when we're sympathetic, our digestion is inhibited when we're parasympathetic, we stimulate digestion. Our gallbladder gets stimulated so it can, do more with the digestion process. So think about travel. So I know this might be too much information, but think about when you travel. When I travel, my digestive system sort of shuts down. You know, there's a couple days when I travel that I can't go to the bathroom. All right, this is why, because my body is under a stressful situation and it's shutting down that part so, I can survive that change that I made in when I travel. Okay. So the last one down at the bottom. So that just gives you a couple of examples. The last one down the bottom is interesting. Um, a reproductive system, decreased blood flow. Okay. So maybe if we were more in the parasympathetic state all the time, maybe that blue pill would not need to exist. I'm just throwing it out there. All right. So what happens in your system when you're in a fight or flight mode? Your cortisol goes up, you have an increased heart rate, your blood sugar is higher, your fat storage gets signaled. So remember all the stressors we had at the beginning? So we're living in the stress state all the time. So think about it. Our cortisol for a lot of people is always increased. Our heart rate is increased. We have higher blood sugar all the time. Maybe that's the reason why there's so much diabetes. People are fatter now. This is probably it. They have too much stimulation. There's too much going on, and we're in fight or flight mode a lot. So this is me. If Bob is still here, this was in Arizona, but parasympathetic, our digestion improves, hormones can balance out, recovery increases, our fat metabolism improves. So we're going to talk about ways that we can get more into the sympathetic state so we can metabolize fat. All right, so quickly on why chronic stress blocks fat loss. All right, obviously this is a little AI image here, but cortisol is signaling our body to store energy. All right, so that's why when we're constantly in fight or flight, chronic stress mode, that's why we gain weight. Insulin resistance also increases. We become in survival mode all the time. Our sleep quality decreases. And we'll talk a little bit later about this, but then those hormones that signal, whether I'm hungry or whether I'm full get all out of whack. And it causes us even to gain more weight. If you have any questions, you can just pop them in there. Faye is on. She can help with the chat box as well. She's personal assistant here to help us out with this. All right, so stress and aging. So going a little bit further. So reduced recovery makes us age faster. Sleep disruption makes us age faster. Somebody I just talked to, they're a business coach and they're like, oh, I only need 5 hours sleep. Well, that's really a sleep disruption every single day. So, and that's increasing how fast we age. Hormonal sensitivity gets thrown off with stress, which causes us to age faster. So most people, probably none of you here today, but most people think that, if they're in this chronic stage of stress and they have some extra pounds, what do they need to do? They need to train harder. So most people do. They make stricter diets, right? And they just ignore their nervous system regulation. So many people train harder and it causes them more stress. When you're in a relaxed state, then that stress can be good. But when you're in a stress state already and you add more stress by over-exercising, then that could increase the amount of stress that you have and get you even to a worse situation. Eating a stricter diet. I hate the word diet. I don't like to use it. I think Rich will tell you this. I like to call it your eating lifestyle, not your diet, because diet just has all these connotations of restriction. And if you're restricted, you're going to give yourself more stress, right? So what does that make people do? Find a gimmick to help them lose weight, and they just think it's normal. All this amount of stress that we have, they just think it's normal because everybody else is under that much stress. And then that inhibits our fat loss. So the missing link here is that nervous system regulation, which we are going to get to shortly. All right, so 7 tools to help calm your nervous system. We're going to do a few of these today, so get ready. Hopefully you're in a safe place. If you're not in a safe place, you can keep your eyes open. It's fine. Tool number 1 is walking. I think everybody already knows that walking is a good thing to do to regulate your nervous system. It lowers your cortisol. It helps get you into that parasympathetic state. It promotes fat burning because you're in a low level of exercise. You're not stressing yourself out with exercise. Improve your sleep quality because it gets you a little bit of exercise. It takes the edge off a little bit. Regulates your mood and stress. We'll get to more of that in tool number 2. Helps sustainable daily movement. If you're walking every day, it's great to walk right after you eat to mobilize that energy that you just gave yourself. And it's not just exercise, it is nervous system therapy. So think of it that way. You can even say, I need to go for a walk for my nervous system therapy because it's definitely a thing. So where did all this walking and philosophy with that come from? So first of all, it probably came way, way before Aristotle, but Aristotle used it as a modality to help people think more clearly during meetings. He was a peripatetic, a person that teaches while they walk, basically. So walking facilitates people talking to each other, and talking facilitates thinking, since Aristotle is considered a philosopher. So consider taking your next meeting on a walk. That would be cool. I'm tired of sitting at this seat, I'll tell you that right now. All right. Tool number 2 can absolutely go with tool number 1. All right. This is me laying in a tree in Arizona somewhere. Actually, I think Sandra might have been with us that day. I'm not sure. I think she was, actually. So nature exposure is super calming. It allows you to get some sunlight, even if it's cloudy, like it's in Washington a lot. Maybe not so much now where Ralph is, but even going out in the winter when the sun's out, but it's still cloudy, is still good. Gives you some fresh air, you get some green spaces. If you like the bird watch, that is a good hobby to do while you're getting some nature exposure. Tracking, geocaching, outdoor sports, running, forest therapy, forest bathing, all these things you can do to help regulate your nervous system. So nature has all of these benefits, activating your parasympathetic nervous system. Think about it. Next time you go outside, are you more relaxed? Are your breathing patterns a little bit different when you go outside? Maybe not if you're running, but if you're just taking a stroll, right? It's been proven that it reduces people's rumination and anxiety about things when they go for a walk outside or just being outside. There's even a study that said if you're stuck in an office and you have a picture of something, of landscape, that is even calming enough to have in an office, and that you'll get some benefit from that. So even if you can't get outside, having something that you can look at, maybe a window to the outside, or even like a picture of landscape, helps regulate your mood, helps your emotional balance. Like I said, if you have any questions, just pop them in. All right, so the next tool is breath work. So breath work allows you to relax. In fact, I was talking to somebody from Korea yesterday. They're totally stressed out. They had 8 hours of teaching to go after I was done talking to them for 10 minutes. And I said, Andrew, do you want to try this? And I spent 30 seconds with him going through some breathwork techniques. And he said he felt way more relaxed than, before we started to talk. So this can happen in a really short amount of time. I'm going to give you a few techniques here in a few seconds that you can even use if you're having a meeting and it's a little bit stressful and nobody even knows that you're doing this breath work. You can totally do it without even having anybody know about it. So if you have a boss that is angry or, really forward and you just need to kind of zone out for 15 seconds, you can do one of these breathwork techniques to help you calm down. Same thing as all, you should hear a theme here, reducing cortisol. And this third tool, same as tool number two, same as tool number one. This one will also help improve your HRV, your heart rate variability. That's the time between beats of your heart. That's what the heart rate variability is measured on. So they measure that in like milliseconds. And believe it or not, you want it to be variable. You don't want it to be the same. If your heart beats exactly 1 second each time, that means you are really, 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 really sick. So you want that variability. The higher your variability, the better. All right, you ready to try this?
Can I ask, Steve, what do you mean by variability? Can you explain that one again?
Heart rate variability.
Yes.
So think about it as you want your heart rate variability to be as high as you can, high as it possibly can be, because whatever happens to you, Mike, you want to be able, you want your heart to be able to react to whatever is happening. Okay. So if it's not a dynamic exchange between what you're doing and how your heart's reacting, then you got some, systematic problems. In fact, some doctors use this for like if somebody has like cancer and they're really going downhill, their heart rate variability will go, into the single digits. So that can be measured on a watch. So like Garmin does it. I think Apple Watch does it. That's a kind of mainstream thing, but it's good to keep an eye on. So you want that heart rate variability to go up over time. So whatever it is now, you just want it to continue to go up as you do some adaptations in your life. Does that make sense, Mike?
So you talk reaction to exercise, you mean? So it's not like just you don't mean like just fluttering constantly for no reason, but in reaction to different stressors, you mean?
Yeah, so even when I get up off the chair,
Yeah.
my heart's got to function a little bit differently than if I'm just sitting here. So even on those micro movements, you want it to be variable enough to be able to handle whatever you're giving it.
Okay. So if I get up and I start to get a little bit woo woo, is that possibly a lack of variability? Or do I just need to drink more Dr. Pepper and get more glucose?
I don't know about Dr. Pepper, but
We
something.
can barely find it here in Peru. That's like they sell them in liquor stores. I'm like, just as an example, is it a glucose thing or is it a heart rate variability thing?
For the Dr. Pepper?
No, no, no. If I get up quickly and woo, start to spin a little bit.
Well, sometimes that's an inner ear issue. So, as we age, sometimes those crystals in our ear gets a little wacko and causes us to be a little bit lose our balance when we stand up. So definitely get that checked out, Mike.
Well, it happens once in a while. But if I go to the gym, I usually have some little gummies, like little, not gummies like those kind of gummies, but I mean like little sugary something like almost like jelly beans, just to, and that usually helps.
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
with
I
my
mean, now that you say it that way, it might be, a little bit of variability in your sugar level in your
yeah,
body.
oh, definitely,
So,
definitely.
yeah, that'd be something a little bit different.
That's an issue for me.
Yeah. We'll have to chat offline about that. All right. So you ready to do this? We're going to do this box breathing. So this is one breathing technique that you can do anytime. I suggest you do it often, um, just because of how stressful everybody's life is. So if you feel like you're in a safe place and you can go ahead and close your eyes, go ahead and do that. If you're not in a safe place and you want to keep your eyes open, that's fine. I'm going to do the counting. The way this works is that you're going to inhale for 4 seconds. You're going to hold it for 4 seconds. You're going to exhale for 4 seconds. Then after you exhale, you're going to hold it for 4 before you take your next breath. Okay, so kind of pay attention to how you feel right now. Go ahead and close your eyes if you feel like you're in a safe place. And inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 2, 3, 4. Hold, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 2, 3, 4. And hold, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we just did 2 cycles of that. So think about, did you feel any different just from 2 cycles? You don't have to answer, but you know,
I
after
could
you,
say that breathing out, I felt like it took a 4 count to fill my belly with air, but I think it took like an 8 count to empty it.
yeah, yeah. That's a great point because our next one, you hit the nail on the head on that one. Yeah, so this is the type of breathing that the Navy SEALs use to get ready for whatever mission that they're on. That's where kind of this originated from. I don't know if it's from Divine or not, or some other Navy SEAL, but the Navy SEALs use this all the time to get ready for their mission whenever they're ready to do that. So, little technique, 4 count box breath. Use it whenever you feel like you're a little bit agitated, or read a news article or something like that. Okay, technique number 2 is the 2x breath. So the 2x breath is basically just what Mike just said. So you're going to breathe in and then you're going to exhale twice as long as you breathe in. Okay, so if we breathe in for a 4 count, you're going to exhale on an 8 count. If your um, lung capacity isn't as high as you feel like it should, maybe it's a 2 count and a 4 count. Okay, so I'll do the counting for a 4 and 8, since Mike brought that up. And I'm going to have a 1 second pause at the top. So we'll inhale for 4, take a break for 1, and then exhale for 8. And really let it out and push out all that air as much as you can and get it out of your lungs. Let's do 3 rotations of that. Okay. So again, if you're in a good place and you can close your eyes, go ahead and do that. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, hold, exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. How's that? Feel any different? I'll pick on Rich. How'd you feel after that, Rich? Oh, you're on me. There we go.
He's speechless.
More relaxed, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. So when you're having a like stressful time at work, pull this 2x breath out, pull that box breath out. If family member agitates you, pull out one of these two things. Do that breath work. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we're shifting our body from that. Whoop, Sandra, do you have? Whoop, you're still on mute. Whoop. Let me hit the button here. There we go.
Hey Steve, when you're doing the breathing, are you breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth all the time, or is it mouth breathing only?
You,
Or does
I
it
would
matter?
suggest like breathing through your nose,
Okay,
especially through the inhale. The reasoning behind that is because your nose actually makes a little bit of nitrous oxide,
right,
and nitrous oxide like helps expand your blood vessels a little bit. So
right
anytime you
on.
breathe in through your nose, then there's some evidence that that helps open up your blood vessels as well.
Perfect, thanks.
So sure. And as far as breathing out, some some meditation people will tell you to breathe out through your nose. Some will say breathe out through your mouth. Do what you want. Either or, I don't think it really matters too much. You don't need to filter the air coming out. Filtering the air coming in is probably a good thing. All right, so feel free to use that whenever you need to. All right, tool number 4 is meditation. So this does all the same things, right? Lowers anxiety, lowers cortisol, um, improves your focus. But please keep in mind that there's a lot of people that I talk to that say that I can't ever empty my mind. You know, well, you don't have to. It's impossible. The meditation person I really like, she explains it as your brain thinks involuntarily, just like your heart beats involuntarily. So it's impossible to turn off your brain. All right. It's just going to have these thoughts. So what I do when I meditate is think about one word. So, I say this one word in the back of my mind, and whenever I have a thought pop up, I just kind of think about that one word and kind of focus back on that to get my focus, you know, back of not having thoughts. But they always creep back in, and you got to refocus each time. So, but that is such a pearl of wisdom. It's like, okay, we can't make our mind stop thinking. So don't ever get discouraged about meditation because you can't shut your brain off. It's going to keep working all the time. So hopefully if you ever try meditation or have tried meditation and got frustrated, that kind of helps because you can't turn it off. Okay, tool number 5 is strength training. It's not kind of sounds weird. This is one Rich really likes. All right, because we want to build muscle, improve our insulin sensitivity. This helps our aggression. If we have some aggression, taking it out on a workout is always good, even if you don't do an intense workout. Improves your nervous system responsiveness and that brain muscle connection. But my major tip is it's consistency over intensity. That's the same thing with meditation, consistency over intensity. That's the same thing with walking, consistency over intensity. Same thing as being out in nature. Let's be consistent about it. All of these things. If you're consistent on those things, then they're going to work in your favor. All right. We're trying to calm down the nervous system. Remember what I said 10 or 20 slides back that you can easily make strength training a stressful event. All right. If you go too hard, that's going to be a stressful event. And if you're already in that sympathetic state, that's even going to throw you more into a sympathetic state. All right. That's going to shut down those organs that you really need to work when you're relaxed. So I always say after 40 or 50, let's do body weight exercises. All right. Unless you're training for some type of event, let's do body weight exercises or, dumbbell exercises. Nothing too intense. I'm not here to impress anybody anymore. I shouldn't say that too loud, right? But yeah, we're doing this for longevity. We're doing this to help stimulate our parasympathetic nervous system. All right. Magic pill number 6. This is probably like the biggest magic pill that you can swallow, and that is sleep. Hacking your sleep to make sure that that is consistent is probably the best way to get yourself into this parasympathetic state. So you might be thinking, well, I just go to bed and I wake up, right? But setting yourself up for a good night's sleep like an hour or two before, super important so you can get that good night of sleep. And knowing what you're going to do when you wake up is important so you can have that routine. You are most in control of your day at the very end and at the very beginning. In the middle, all shit can break loose, right? But those two bookends, you have the most control over. So take charge of those, really set your environment up for you to have a great night's sleep. That is where the magic happens. That's where your body repairs itself, unless you are all jacked up and you're in a sympathetic state all the time. So, how do we get ourselves in a place where we can set ourselves up for good sleep? Turning off our phones an hour before bed, not eating 3 hours before we go to bed, making sure our sleep environment is dark. In Washington in the middle of the winter, that's not too hard, right? But the closer to the equator you get, it's 12 and 12. Actually, when we were in Ecuador, that was like bliss because it was 12 hours of darkness every night, and there was no change. It's just 12 hours every single day. You knew
Oh,
what
it's a
you were getting.
nightmare. Oh, don't go there, Steve. I live near the equator. I've lived in Alaska. Disagree. Now you're kind of an even keeled, steady dude. I tell you, there's something special about going to bed at 1 in the morning, waking up at 3:30, and it's been light the whole time. My jam.
Mm. I don't know the last time my body saw 1 a.m.
I can tell you.
It was definitely bliss for me. I loved it. Yeah, but being consistent. Remember I said consistency over intensity. Being consistent. For me, I like to be in bed at 8. For me, I'm up at 4:49 every day. So, that's just what I do. It's clockwork. All right. So let's jump into the sleep hormones as to why bad sleep is a problem. So when your sleep gets derailed, that's going to mess with these two hormones. One of them is leptin, one of them is ghrelin. All right. Leptin tells you you're full, and ghrelin tells you you're hungry. And usually these are in balance. So when you eat something, it says you're full, and then time goes by and things empty out, then ghrelin starts to kick in. But when we get a bad night's sleep, this ghrelin goes up. So if you ever got the munchies in the middle of the night because your sleep is terrible, you're in that sympathetic state and your ghrelin is increasing throughout the night and making you hungry when you probably don't need food at that particular point. So in a sympathetic state, this ghrelin is going to be overactive. In this parasympathetic state, then your hormones are going to be more balanced. So good sleep increases leptin, increases satiety. Bad sleep increases the ghrelin, which makes you hungry. And if you're eating as soon as you wake up or even during the night, Obviously, that's not going to be good for, weight maintenance or weight loss. Any questions about that? Those two are bugaboos, I'll tell you. Leptin and ghrelin. All right. Tool number 6. So tool number 6 is the social connection. All right. We are in a bad place right now because a lot of our connections are two-dimensional. So we really need to go out of our way to get three-dimensional social connections. So like with a real live human being, remember the little exercise we did at the beginning where you think about 500 years ago and today and how that social interaction was different? It is awesome that I can see Sandy. She's 2,000 miles away in Canada, but if she was right here, we'd hug, we'd do some other stuff, we'd go bird watching, and that would be an awesome social connection. And this two-dimensional connection is just a little bit different. When we have that tight-knit group of people that we have that we can share time with and we can be with, that helps us relax. That helps us decrease cortisol. That helps regulate our insulin, all of those things. Obviously, if to be the right people, I'm sure there's people in your life that aggravate you. Those are the people that you don't need to be with, right? There's two groups of people out there. Well, there's many more groups of people, but definitely two groups of people to either help you make connections, help you build oxytocin, or not. So oxytocin is that bonding hormone, builds emotional resilience. That's the chemical formula. Be cool to have a necklace with that on it, right? But think about those social connections. 500 years ago, you had a tight-knit group of family members, and there was a little bubble outside that you're a little more familiar with, that you would interact with your community, and then there would be a bigger circle of people that you weren't as familiar with, and then that circle got bigger and bigger. And I don't know, maybe one of you knows that magic number. Like we can only have like 100, maybe 150 connections in our lives where we can actually have meaningful interactions with them. I think it's 150. I could be wrong about that. But more than that, we really can't stay in touch. So, count up those people that you really keep in touch with and see what that number is. Be curious to find out. All right. Magic number 7, tool number 7 is play. So learning what your play is, I'd love to go over that with clients to figure out what their actual way to play is, right? I think play is defined as some activity that you do and you're not really thinking about anything else, all right? You can inspire laughter, your creativity. This is different for everybody. And your body just can't play if it's in danger. So if you're constantly in parasympathetic state, then you can't play. So I'm thinking about like, kids that live in traumatic lives and traumatic family situations, and they're not in a safe place to play. So they don't get that joy. They're on that edge of sympathetic instead of parasympathetic that we are in play. That's my son, Elliot. And one thing that we did together when I was living in Pittsburgh was play Ultimate Frisbee. And yeah, Elliot plays Ultimate Frisbee too. He's faster than I am, but he's also 30 years younger too. So that helps. So what are some examples of play? So there's all kind of things that resonate with people for play, like creative play. I know Sandy likes to draw, so that's her play. Music can be play. One of my coach friends is a musician. That's his play. It could be art. It could be building things. It could be writing things. Anything in the creative realm could be play. Physical play, actually doing physical things. hiking. For me, I do an obstacle course race every now and then. Some people like to dance, some people like to play sports, but finding what that play is for you. Joy-based play, bird watching is one of those things. Exploring nature is another thing for me. We all need to have some kind of thing that we really like to do. Some people really like to read. Like reading is a good way to play. In fact, brought the Harry Potter series with me. I've finished it a bunch of months ago, but it's like, okay, when I'm reading that, it's like I'm not thinking about anything else. I'm just absorbed into the story. So reading can be one of those things that can be considered play. It could be a social thing. It could be a nature thing. It could be a walking thing. It could be all of the other things, except for maybe sleep. You got to sleep like it's your job. That's what somebody told me a while back. Sleep like it's your job. Why does play matter? So, all the things you've already heard, it helps reduce stress. It helps get you in the parasympathetic state. It helps to improve your sleep. It helps to improve your movement. It improves your consistency of all the other things. So I love this little equation on the bottom. Better metabolism plus better adherence equals better fat loss. So you put all of these 7 things in your lives, and then it helps with your metabolism. You're more consistent. Remember I said before, being consistent with these things, and then that leads to fat loss. But even if we're doing every single solitary other thing right, we're eating right, we're exercising right, we're sleeping right. If we're chronically stressed, we're chronically in that sympathetic state, we're not going to lose weight. We're going to be stuck. All right. So this is just a summary of everything that we talked about, walking daily, breathing, slow and deep, meditation, training your mind, strength training, sleeping, connecting with people, and playing more. That's just a little summary of everything that we talked about today. So what are the big ideas? We want to shift ourselves from a sympathetic state to a parasympathetic state because we want to be intimate. We want to make sure our bowels move when they're supposed to move, right? We want to make sure our digestion happens. We want to make sure that we have saliva that I don't have now because I'm probably a little sympathetic. So we want all of these things to work correctly. In order to do that, we need to shift from sympathetic to parasympathetic. Moving daily helps us with that. Prioritizing sleep. All of these things got to be in line for our bodies to be calm enough to be able to burn fat better. Then you can burn fat. Train your body to burn fat while you sleep. It used to do that 500 years ago by itself, but not anymore. Okay, so before we get to the question part of it, I just wanted to tell you that you're more than welcome to come to my next event, which is on April 15th. That's going to be all things nutrition, and we're going to build on what we learned today. So your job is, if you come next time, is to get that body of yours into that parasympathetic state so we can attack this with a vengeance. All right, so 5 silent nutrition killers. I like, in my mind, I see like 3 or 4 of them right in that picture. And I think we have the link for that. So if you want to just register today, we can do that. I think, Faye, do you have that? You can pop that into the chat. Okay. Awesome. This is not a real person, by the way. It's just some AI image of somebody doing bad things. Okay. This is me. And I also have a 12-week program. These are all the things that happen during that 12-week program. I usually meet with everybody for 30 minutes each week. Obviously, goal setting's involved. You've learned some of the techniques to help calm yourself down today. Um, develop health and fitness plans. And I have an app that not only does the fitness part, but also does the nutrition part and the tracking of your metrics. So I have direct access to all that information, so I can help you get you wherever you want to go. And one thing that I did forget to mention before is all of this stuff is N equals 1. So if you are familiar with science and experimentation, N equals 1 is you are an experiment of 1. So if Ralph is trying to figure out how to get himself into a parasympathetic state, it's going to look different than Rich's. It's going to look different than Bob's. It's going to look different than Mike's and Sandra's and Faye's. They're all going to look different. So my philosophy of helping people is, every single person is N equals 1. Whatever works for you might not necessarily work for your spouse or the people that you live with or, your children or your parents. Everybody's going to have a different thing that's going to resonate with them. All right. So these are basically the things that I cover over 12 weeks. Now, I just got done saying N equals 1. So these are definitely not in order because, maybe Faye needs to move more. So we're going to do that right away. Or maybe Rich needs to turn down the noise in his life a little bit more. So we need to, focus on that. Um, maybe the AM and PM bookends is where you really need the work. So that's when we would focus on that first and then worry about some of these other things later. So this is my program. Just wanted you to be aware of that. And then, yeah, what questions do you have from all that? That was fun stuff. Hopefully you learned, hopefully you practiced the technique that you can use today. Any questions?
A good presentation. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Yeah, if I can help anybody, that'd be great.